So today we're going to be talking about some expectations that Ottawa University has for online instructors. And I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to try to share from my screen. So let me go ahead and start that.
Hello, it's Tom. Can you hear me?
Okay, can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, I can.
Great. So I'm just going to quickly go through the policies and expectations that we have, and then I'm going to open it up to questions and discussion. I really want it to be you asking a lot of questions and us having discussion about these, but I do want to just go through them really quickly just so we're on the same page of what our basic guidelines, policies, and expectations are. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Bryson. I'm one of our full-time faculty members. Some of you might have me as your mentor. I do serve as a peer mentor for arts and sciences. I'm also the lead faculty for liberal arts for APGS. So for today's presentation, I got the information for you from our Standards for Online Instructors, which, if you're not familiar with that document, is available in our faculty portal. There are also standard course policies available to you in every one of the syllabi on Blackboard. And we also have academic misconduct and action form, which some of you may already be familiar with. That's available in the faculty portal, and that's to be used when we have incidents of academic dishonesty. So let's just go over very quickly some of the expectations that we have for instructor participation in an online course. Just to refresh your memory, our course week for an online course starts on Monday, and it goes to Sunday at midnight Central Time. So all of the expectations that we have for a course week will be from Monday to Sunday at midnight. So instructors should be logging into their courses on at least 4 different days per week. This is really important that you show that you have a presence within the Blackboard course that you're teaching. Of course, many of you will probably be logging in more. Myself, I log in several times a day. Of course, it is my full-time job, but I like to remain connected. And also, I feel as though if you're not in the discussion board frequently, that things could spin out of control sometimes if you're not there to just watch what's happening in the discussion. So the ways in which instructors can make their presence known is by leaving what's called a digital footprint. And some of the areas that you may be able to leave a digital footprint is in your course cafe, by making announcements, by grading papers, and by participating in the course discussion. We have an expectation that instructors respond to learners within 24 to 48 hours. This helps to lessen students' anxiety levels, particularly when they don't have a chance to meet you face-to-face often. They can have anxiety about their connection to you. So it's important to always be there for them when they have questions or concerns. This 24 to 48 hour rule applies to any questions that students post in the course cafe, questions via email, and questions they may pose through phone or text. If you don't think you'll be available to respond within 24 to 48 hours, for example, in the spring term, I was hospitalized. So if something like that happens to you, you should post an announcement letting students know what the situation is and when you'll be available. Instructors must make their presence known in the course discussion. This is really important, and this is one of the biggest issues that we see when we're evaluating online courses, is that there's often a lack of participation in the online discussion. So you have to make sure that you're participating actively in the discussion. This doesn't mean that you're required to respond to every learner's post every week, but you should be facilitating each week's discussion, asking follow-up questions, providing additional information to students within that discussion, just so that they see that you're reading and interacting with them that week. All assignments must be graded within 1 week of the due date. Ideally, you'll be grading papers sooner than that, but the expectation is that it's at least within a week of the due date. Ottawa expects instructors to provide students with substantive and timely feedback. So you should be giving students really good feedback on their assignments and doing so in a timely manner. We hope that you'll also be making use of the grading rubrics which are provided in your course shell. Some of the ways that you can provide substantive feedback: you can make notes and comments in the paper itself using the inline grading system. You can make more general comments about the paper overall, and also I would always recommend giving specific reasons why points were deducted. It's really, really, really important that if a student does not submit an assignment, that you post a grade of 0 in the grade book. If you don't post a grade of 0 in the grade book, it will mess up the overall grading of the student for that class. Instructors must post at least one new substantive announcement each week. We encourage video announcements if that's something that you feel comfortable doing. Instructors should communicate with every student in the class at least 1 time per week. And this includes communication in the discussion board, grading papers, or via email. This is something important that I noticed with some of the people that I mentor, is that they don't realize that they may be communicating with students a lot via email, but then they wonder when they get their evaluation, their peer evaluation, that the peer evaluator doesn't think that they're communicating enough. It's because your emails are not archived in Blackboard, and the only thing that your peer evaluator can see is what is in Blackboard, in the Blackboard shell. That means any communication that you have that's going on via email is never going to be evaluated when your peer evaluator does your evaluation. So keep that in mind when you're communicating with students via email, that that's not going to be counted in your peer evaluation. I was asked to also reiterate the late submission policy. So this is really important, so we're all on the same page when it comes to students submitting assignments late. Of course, you know that discussion board posts can never be accepted late. Once the discussion week is over, we cannot accept late discussion board posts. So initial discussion board posts should be made by Wednesday at midnight. Then students should be making their peer reply posts between Thursday and Sunday at midnight. Then once that week is over, there's no opportunity to post discussion board posts and get credit. All other assignments must be submitted by midnight Sunday Central Time. With instructor approval, and this is really, really important. The guidelines specifically state with instructor approval. So it's up to all of you to decide whether or not you want to accept late assignments. It's with instructor approval. With instructor approval, assignments may be accepted up to 1 week after the deadline with a 10% late deduction. So it's at your discretion whether you will be willing to accept a late assignment. And then if it's submitted within 1 week of the due date, it's a 10% deduction. The instructor may also allow for an extension and may take up to 20% off as a late deduction. So that gives you the guidelines of what our expectations are for late assignments, but it's really at your discretion whether or not you want to accept late assignments. But you have to make it clear to the students what your expectations are up front. Keep in mind, all work must be submitted via Blackboard. There are no exceptions to this policy. If you accept things via email, there's no record of it then in Blackboard. And if there's ever a grievance or anything, we don't have access to your email. So it's really important that only things are uploaded to Blackboard and graded in Blackboard. So let's just talk about the academic honesty policy. And our guidelines. Of course, we want students to submit their original work. Students may not submit work for more than one class. That's referred to as self-plagiarism. For every class, they have to submit a new original assignment. Plagiarism is never tolerated at Ottawa University. If you suspect that a student is plagiarizing, or if there's some other type of academic dishonesty, for example, 2 students in the same class submitting the same paper, you should contact the Dean of Instruction and submit an academic misconduct and action form. And the penalties for academic dishonesty include failure on the assignment, failure in the course, or dismissal from the university. Of course, the dismissal from the university generally comes after there's been multiple incidents of plagiarism. And then to give you an idea, if some of you have never been through the grievance process, this is what it is. If students have an issue with something that happened in your course, they may go through the grievance process, and it's a 2-step process. There's an informal process and a formal process. In the informal process, which must take place first, students should make every attempt to resolve the issue with you, their instructor, first. Then, if they're unable to resolve the issue with you, the instructor, the student should discuss it with their academic advisor. Often, academic advisors will then come to you to see if there can be any kind of resolution to the situation. Then, if no resolution takes place, then the student may elect to go through a formal process. If a student, most of the time it's grades, are going through a formal grievance, they must submit in writing this formal grievance to the Dean of Instruction. The Dean of Instruction will then have a 3-member grievance committee made up of faculty members, adjunct faculty members, and advisors. They will hold a formal hearing to hear the complaint. Sometimes this will include the instructor as well, and sometimes not. It just depends on the nature of the complaint. The grievance committee will make a recommendation to the dean based on what they hear, and then the student may appeal the decision if they don't like what's been said. So that's the grievance process. So I know we went through a lot. Going to get my screen back here. Let's see. I hear some kind of noise in the background. If you could all mute again, that would be great. Okay, I know I went through all of that very quickly, but if you would like to open it, I would like to open up for discussions and questions that all of you might have. I know that I went through that very, very quickly. So let's open it up to discussion. Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything that I went over in the presentation?
I do.
Okay, who?
This is Lisa Ray. I don't know if you can see me or not. Your screen's
crowded. Yes. Great to see you.
With the late assignments, is the 10% deduction mandatory? Because I got to tell you, when they've got a really good excuse, I don't take points off. You know, if the sky falls for them.
It's recommended. I will say that there have been times that I have not taken points off. And yes, it is because there's some extenuating circumstance. For example, I had a student whose son was murdered.
Yeah.
In that case, I did not feel it was appropriate to deduct the 10%. So yeah, I do believe there are times, and that's why it's at your discretion, when you may not feel it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
That's a great question.
Yeah. Hi, Karen. This is Jan. I don't know whether you can see me or not, but the question that I have is, how do you know when a student has written a paper for another class?
Usually it will come up in the plagiarism detector, the safe assign. It'll say 100% plagiarized. And then if you go in there, you'll see it's because they submitted it for another class.
Okay.
But
so
that'll only work if they submitted it for another class through Ottawa. If they wrote it for community college or something, we may not know unless you happen to have taught them at the community college or something.
So if it's 1% or 5%, that's probably okay. But if it's up in the 50s, 60s, then I've got a problem, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You would need to have a conversation with them at that point and say, what's happening here? Yeah.
All right. Great. Thanks.
Jane, this is Annie Chevano. I have a comment to make that actually it could help. I teach some of the graduate classes, and the final project is built based on all the delivers that they had from week 1. So when they use part of their assignments, obviously the rating is going to be up, the similarity rating towards the end and the final project. What I recommend to do, since a course auditor will not know what's going on, I recommend putting a note when you're grading the final project that the portfolio project or final research project was based on assignments from week 1 to 7. So that way they know that there's a high similarity towards the end. The reason was they used their own work earlier in the term.
Yes. Annie, that's a great point. Yeah, the plagiarism detector will do that if throughout one class, like we do in Writing, Critical Thinking, Global Issues, 2 classes that I teach, they're working on parts of a paper throughout the course, so that by the time they get to the end, it could be 100%, come up as 100% because they've already submitted parts of the paper throughout the class. So yeah, that's an excellent point.
Karen,
Yeah.
this is Lisa Ray again.
Hi.
Just since we're on the safe assign thing, safe assign can trip you up a little bit in my experience. When I get those high matches, I will go into the safe assign report and click on the sentences that are matching. And sometimes it'll be like a 40% match to some article and it's not plagiarized. It's just there's only so many ways that you can say like ischemic stroke or whatever. It'll be common language. So it really isn't plagiarism. It's just that we all use the same language.
Yes.
So I'm really careful when
that's an excellent point. Yeah. You exactly what you said is exactly what all of us should be doing, using that tool, because exactly what you said, there will be times when students will be using similar language or similar articles that just that come up because, they're popular for that topic.
This is Bob Meehan. I've also come up with an issue where the safe assign will report that it's 20% somebody else's work, but that will all be in quotes and it'll be properly cited. And then you'll see also it counts the text or the references that are listed. So unlike Turnitin, where you can turn off the references and turn off direct quotes, you can then get a picture of what's true. So safe assign, you do, to Lisa's point, you do need be a little bit careful because it counts quotations and it also counts references toward the total percentage.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's a great point, Bob. Thank you for mentioning that. So I have some questions in the group chat. When a student has taken a course before, what is the best practice and process for accepting assignments previously submitted? I think it's at your discretion. I think it depends on the course and how much of the course they finished. And I think there's a lot of factors. But I think that's completely at your discretion. Did you have any follow-up to that, Heidi?
No, that's really helpful. I was just wondering about discretion.
Yeah, I think it's completely at your discretion. And there are reasons for dropping the class too, might have something to do with it. They do, yes, Lisa, that's a great point. They do have to ask permission because it will come up. It will come up on the safe assign that it's already been submitted. So yeah, they would need to have a conversation with you about that. Great point, Lisa. Thank you for mentioning that. Are we expected to leave feedback in the section of the rubric or one comment in the feedback section? So how I generally do it is I fill in the entire rubric numerically and then I give general comments at the bottom in the feedback section. Some instructors like to leave comments for each section of the rubric. It's totally your choice. If you have a drop-down rubric, it's a little hard to have comments in each area. It's better to give it's easier to give general feedback. So yeah, that's what I do. Lisa, we have a lot of options. That's true. What we want you to do is we want you to use a rubric and we want you to provide feedback and we want students to make sure they know why they're losing points, but how you accomplish that is really based on your style. Okay, does anyone have any questions that I haven't addressed? There's a lot of chat here, so let me know. Annie?
Yeah, I do have one question. I teach the technical courses, and some of these courses require downloading tools on students' laptops. More often in every class that I do have these type of assignments, students struggle to get the tool working on their system. So I usually spend quite a bit of time with at least 50% of students individually trying to debug their issue on their system. And this is not part of the course or the forum, and it's a one-on-one type of thing. But the time that it requires is it's a lot, and it doesn't show on my activity. And then there's no way for me to report that I spend this much time with the student getting the system on her system working for this assignment or for this class. So what is your recommendation for instructor to allocate or submit the times that one will spend on each student?
Are you speaking with them via phone or Zoom conference? How are you meeting with them?
Zoom. Usually it's Zoom or any other web conference that the student has access to. And sometimes there is a conflict between running the Zoom in parallel with the tool that they're installing. So it's a combination of, it could be Zoom or another web conferencing, but it is part of the activity is part of the class forum.
Do you think there's any way that you could take some of the general issues that students are having and make little tutorial videos that you can put in your announcements?
Well, it varies because the student system configurations are different from one to another. So one might be running laptop PC with the Intel version of CPU, and the tool has conflict with it. Okay. And another one may be running Mac with totally different configuration. So it's actually case by case thing.
Okay, what you can do, what I do, I mean, I don't teach technical classes, but I do have students that email me or we talk on the phone about assignments. So if a student emails me or I talk with them on the phone about the assignment, I make a note of that when I'm grading the assignment. So like, for example, a student talked to me about the possibility of handing assignment in late. We had a phone conversation about it. So when I actually grade that paper, I say, we talked about, in the phone conversation we had, we talked about this paper being late, and I make a note of it when I'm grading it. So when somebody's reviewing it, they know that the student and I had a phone conversation. So an evaluator would know, oh, you talked to the student, or, when we had the Zoom conference, we discussed and put it in a note in the feedback for that assignment. That could be one thing that you could do.
Okay. Usually the average of debug times or getting the system issue resolved, it's between 2 to 3 hours per student.
That's a lot. Is there anything that the OU help desk can be assisting with rather than you having to do it?
I actually had one case that I referred the student to a school to get the tech, and she said that they couldn't get the tool running. So then came back to me. It's kind of ongoing thing. It's a, different tools have different setting that the system should have before the tool actually can get executed on their system. So it's a case by case, and I don't mind spending the time and helping them because it really makes an impact. They enjoy using the tool and actually getting their hands dirty because they have a problem. But the issue is that those hours doesn't really count towards my activity.
Right.
There's no other way besides just putting a note.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, unless you want to videotape the, like we're recording this conference, you can record the meetings that you have with them and upload that recording, when you're providing feedback on the assignment, just upload the recording so the recording's in there too, so the person evaluating could see that you did that.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jerry said, unless a technical issue a student is having is easily resolved, I direct them to OU help. Yes, that's what I do too, because I'm not a technology person. I think it just depends on the instructor. It sounds like, Annie, you enjoy doing that to a certain extent. You're just concerned about getting credit for all those hours, which is understandable. Someone asked if I could please send a copy of the slides. Yes, Heidi, Andrea will be making available the slides to everyone along with the recording of the conference. Okay, what other questions or comments do you have?
This is Tom. Can you hear me all right?
Tom, is that you?
Yes, can you hear me all right? Yes, the comment I have is that in discussions, I usually have 16 to 20 students, and
Tom, I can't understand what you're saying for some reason. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I can't hear what you're saying. It's just coming out all broken up. Sorry.
Maybe it's my connection. Sorry. Let me see if I can type something here.
Okay. Maybe.
Karen?
Yes. Hi.
Karen, this is David Cook from Phoenix.
Hi, David.
Hi. I wanted to go back. I have a comment and then a question. The first comment is going back to SafeAssign. I think it's important to, and this is the opposite side of what has already been said, is that oftentimes SafeAssign misses a lot. And what I mean by that is I've had multiple instances where students have actually taken direct quotes out of textbooks and SafeAssign doesn't pick it up. And it was only because I've taught those courses in the past, it was familiar to me and I was able to go in and find it. So the caution should go both ways on that, just to be careful. Here is my question. Teaching the capstone for communications, and maybe I'm just not sure how to help with this. Probably 25 to 30% of my students will not even look at the announcements and do not even respond to emails when I try to contact them. I give very specific directions on how I want things done. I tell them, I mean, I really help them a lot, because if they just depend on the syllabus, they're going to struggle mightily in the class. So I try to give them specific instructions on what I want and how I want it. And then I get papers that completely ignore that. And later on, maybe in week 6, they'll tell me, oh, well, I didn't know that. So what is a good way to ensure that all of your class members are at least reading the announcements, if nothing else? I'm kind of, it's very frustrating for me. That's why I'm asking.
Well, yes, and I understand your frustration. I think probably we could all relate to what you're saying because I experience it too. So there's a number of things that I do. Number one, make sure that when you're posting your announcement, you click that little box that says email to all students so that the announcement is in Blackboard and it's also being emailed, so that's double. Then if it's something important, I also post it in the course cafe and I post it in the discussion board that week. I just make a new thread and I post it in the discussion board too. So they could potentially see it 4 times. Announcement, email, the course cafe, and in the discussion area that week. Then if they don't see it, they don't see it. These are adult people. I mean, if you're doing double duty, ensuring, or triple duty, ensuring that you're posting it everywhere and you're emailing it, there's nothing more that can be done. I mean, they have to accept the consequences of not paying attention in the class. I guess that would be my recommendation. Does that make sense to you, David?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I tell everyone, even on my welcome video that I put on there, that it's imperative that they go to those places, watch the announcements. So yes, I'll double up. I haven't been going to the course cafe because I see very little activity in that for my course anyway. But yeah, I'll try that and see if that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing you can also do, if you're having trouble with a particular student who just doesn't seem to be getting it and you're very concerned, you can always contact their advisor and ask their advisor to contact them on your behalf, or ask their advisor for their phone number and call them. I mean, I have resorted to that when I just didn't feel like a student was getting it and it wasn't getting any better and emails weren't being responded to, then I would take that extra step and contact the advisor, ask the advisor to contact them, and also get the phone number so you can call. I mean, that's an option too.
Karen?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, hi, Lisa?
Yeah. I copy the advisor on emails when I'm having trouble getting through to a student. I'll just copy the advisor, and I will also, sometimes in the subject line, I'll put, please respond.
Yes.
And every now and then, you shouldn't have to, but every now and then that works.
Yes. I love the please respond email. That's always a good one. Yeah. But it doesn't always work. But yeah, excellent advice. Thank you, Lisa. There is a feature, Jeff says there is a feature of sending all announcements made to the shell. This doesn't work all the time. Okay. I didn't know that. It doesn't work all the time. For some reason, it always works in my classes. Jeff, if it's not working in your classes, you might want to find out why that's happening. Thomas, were you able to get your bandwidth situation fixed? Are you still there, Thomas? Okay. The other option that you have, Thomas, is to post your question in the chat. All right. Okay, Janet has a question via late assignments. I often have students who want to submit work several weeks late for personal reasons. I will often accept this work with points off. Is there a policy? Yes. The policy is it's at your discretion. And what I normally do is when it's past the 1 week mark and it's no longer in the 10% range, then, I mean, if it's an extenuating circumstance and I still feel like I want to accept the work, then it's 20% off. Janet, does that help? It's completely at your discretion. Okay. Okay. I think Thomas is still typing his question. Other questions?
Dr. Bryson, when we're doing the video recordings for our announcements, I've typically just typed them, but I like the idea of incorporating video announcements. Do you just do like Zoom and then download the link?
Yes. Just like we do in the training. I think you were in my training, weren't you?
I think I received the information after, but I wanted to, I've done the Zoom ones before, but you can just embed, like I've just you do it the same way I did my introduction through a Zoom. Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Lisa, thank you for posting that. The email announcement feature does not work if you're setting your announcements to post in the future, which I do all the time. Well, I don't plan that far ahead. So good for you, Lisa, for thinking that far ahead.
I have to in self-defense. Otherwise, I'll forget to post an announcement every week.
I have a note to myself in my calendar every Monday. Remember to post attendance, because otherwise I forget, and then I get a little nasty note from the registrar. Your attendance hasn't been submitted. Other questions, comments, concerns? Oh, Thomas, thank you. I have found that students look for immediate and frequent feedback each week. Short comments weekly from instructor fuels the interest of the student. Excellent. Thank you so much. And are you posting that, that feedback in the discussion board? Yes, thank you. Okay. Even just saying, acknowledging good point or well said. Yes, I agree. Yep, the more interaction that we can have with the students, the better. But I know, I mean, not everyone has a tremendous amount of time, but you do the best that you can. But yeah, it doesn't take that much time to say, oh, that's an excellent point. Thank you for posting that. When do you record attendance for an online class? Does it matter which day? The recommendation for attendance is to post it Monday morning for the previous week, but to make sure that you label it as Sunday. So you're posting the attendance Monday morning for that previous week, but you're saying that the day was Sunday. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Margaret. Record on Monday, label as Sunday. Exactly. And Lisa, thank you. I only do it on Sunday if everyone has attended. Yeah, the problem with doing it on Sunday is that there are people that'll wait till 10 minutes before midnight to hand something in, and I'm not staying up till midnight, so. Okay, other questions, comments? Concerns? Lisa, you have to tell us how the weather is in Hawaii. Oh no. Lisa says it's beautiful, but a hurricane is headed our way. Oh no, I hope you don't get hit. Stay safe. Okay, I'll wait another few minutes. If there are any other questions, please let me know. Okay, as I mentioned to Heidi, the information will be, this is recorded, so the recording and the slides will be available in the portal. And Andrea will probably also send an email to everyone letting them know that the slides and the recording are available. I'm glad that you all found the training helpful. I know I went through the information quickly, but I felt like it was an overview for all of you. It's stuff that you should know, but it's always a good idea to be reminded. And for those of you who would I'm always available via email or phone if you have any specific individual questions that you didn't want to share with the entire group. Please feel free to email or phone, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.